this is working now. Yeah, it is. Welcome to the Common Flock. My mic's a little bit away. I didn't move it. I'm not set up now. Welcome to the Common Flock. I'm your host. And, well, bit to talk about today. Not a lot. Not at all. This point in the off season sucks because there's nothing to talk about. But it is what it is, and we got to get around that. So I'm gonna start off with a topic that I don't even think should be a topic right now, and that is Deshaun Watson to Philly. I've talked about this in call-ins, and I've been in a couple chats for some people and talked about this. No. Why? If we don't give Hurts a chance, that's a horrible idea. You've at least got to give him a chance, because you don't know what you could get, which is good and bad, but you at least want to know somewhat of what he can do with a full season under his belt, etc., etc. And not only that, I really don't want to... Sorry, I'm fixing my mic because things happened, apparently. I don't want to have to deal with... You're going to end up having to give away a first rounder unless you deal Barnett and Ertz, and even then, I think you still have to put in a first rounder. And now, when I say a lot of this, it's going to be, at least for this situation, I'm assuming that that second from the Wentz deal is going to be a first. So, if I say at all three firsts or imply that there's three firsts, I'm assuming that's going to be a first. Okay? So, just saying that now, but with what you have, why not just stick with the picks? And if you really, really needed to, get a quarterback next year, because then you have a younger quarterback that you can build from the bottom up. And not only that, depending on where your picks are and depending on where you want to pick a quarterback, can also have some advantages, disadvantages too. And yes, the draft is an uncertain thing, but you also don't know what could happen to Watson, especially right now. Both options have their pros and their cons, but honestly, I'd rather draft a quarterback. But the situation, Howie's not. I don't think Howie's gonna do it. Why would he? He doesn't need to. You drafted Hurts. Live with it. And I think that's what he's going to do. Especially with his contract on the line. Because he's in his last year and he doesn't have an extension on the table yet. So he's going to do everything in his power to actually do good. That's why you saw him build from the trenches this year and do a soft rebuild. And that's why we're so uncertain at most spots. Which, for better or for worse, is what it is. But why waste capital on him when you could use it in way better spots? And not only that, you've got the contract that comes with Deshaun, which I'm not sure the exact details. I'm pulling it up now, but why? I just don't see too much reasoning behind it that you couldn't just go with Hurts. And who knows what the legal thing, or what the cases are going to come out to. He could not play this year. Who knows? Will he? Probably. I think he could. A lot of people think he won't. I think it's possible. Especially if a lot of these, if not all of them, get ruled in his favor. But looking at his contract, he is getting paid a good amount. I don't know if Philly would want to take that on right now. So this year he's got a base salary of 10 million, which yes, you open up with if you would have to move Ertz and well, you'd have to move Ertz and I think it'd open up around enough, but or I'd open up just almost enough. So I think you'd also have to deal another player potentially or cut somebody to open room. And then he gets paid $35 million in 2022 base salary, $20 million base salary in 23, 32 base salary in 34 and 35, and then he's a UDFA, or 24 and 25, and then in 2026 he's a UDFA. And here's the thing. He is currently, or he does have an out in his fourth year, which is 2023, or after that season. He has a $5.4 million signing bonus for the next 4 years, spanning till 2024. He also has a roster bonus in 23 of $17 million, and his cap hit jumps from this year is $15.9 million to $40.4 million in 2022, $42.4 in 2023, $37.4 in 2024, and $32 million in 2025. You're not going to want to take on that contract if you're Philly and you're in a soft rebuild. And I say soft because it's not a full rebuild. It's a partial, if that sounds any better. But I don't get why you would want to move certain players for that, or certain players and picks, because you have to move Ertz for that deal. For it, I don't think it'll happen. I don't. But that's the word right now, is it could happen, and they're potentially one of the front runners for him. Don't do it, Howie. Don't do it. And speaking of Zach Ertz, I'm hearing a bit of Ertz to Buffalo, and I hear this. Actually, I hear it a lot. And here's my problem. They've got Dawson Knox, who they're developing, and they just brought in Hollister, Jacob Hollister. They're not going to trade for him unless somebody goes down. Yes, I get it. Both players have differing skill sets. But looking at Ertz, he's more of a can't block the greatest, but he's a sure-handed tight end. But he's called No Yak Zach for a reason. You're not going to get any yards after catch with him, and he's built to be a safety blanket tight end or a safety valve. You're not. I don't necessarily think they're going to need that. Is it always good to have another surefire hand guy or another guy with great hands on the team? Sure. Are they going to want to take on Ertz's 8.8 just to potentially play second or third tight end? Probably not. Would he want that? Probably not. And you probably end with, depending on how things plan out, I could probably see him walking. So what? And not only that, they've got slight leverage because he's got 1 year left, and he wants money. And they're not going to make him their one tight end unless Knox goes down for a year. But then they can say, well, Knox is our future, bye-bye, and let him walk or trade him. You're not going to see a trade, especially because you're not going to get what you want for him from Buffalo. No. Because you got to remember, all they need is they've been building youth. All they really needed is experience and to fill in slight holes here and there. They're probably a couple pieces away, but I think you can fill that long term through the draft. And with what Howie wants, I don't know if they're going to want to do that with trading probably a third or fourth for Ertz, which is probably what Howie wants. Although it could be higher, could be lower. Although I think lower has already been offered. I think 6th and 7th, maybe even some 5ths have been offered that he's just said no. It wouldn't surprise me. With Howie, especially, it wouldn't surprise me. But where could he land? Well, looking at every tight end situation, there's only a couple spots that I think he could work out. One could be Miami, because... Hold on, who does Miami have a tight end? I want to make sure. Because I'm basing this off who I'm thinking they have a tight end in my head, but I want to make sure. And now I'm not sure what they have in cap space, which I don't want to look. But going to tight end, they only have Gesicki. They don't have really anybody else that I think probably would compete with an Ertz. And not only that, I think he'd work there because I mean, they've got some decent talent on that offense with Parker, Waddle, Fuller, former Notre Dame product, and Tua. I'm not 100% sure where he's at right now. I can't necessarily say what he'll be this year either. They don't have much at running back though. Don't have much. They got a little bit. They got some talent there, and I don't. I think he could go there. I'm not 100% sure if that cap lines up. I don't. I'm gonna look now, but if it does, then I could see him going there, because they do need. I think they need an experienced tight end, because Gesicki's only a fourth year and he's 25. So, that's one landing spot. There are a couple others. Jacksonville could be a landing spot, because they're in the beginning of a rebuild. Could LA use one? The Chargers? I'm thinking who they've got at tight end, but I don't think they need one right now. I could be wrong. Some teams already are rooted down at tight end, so I don't know for sure. Yeah, they've got enough space, I think. Yeah, no, they don't. They'd have to deal a player, because according to Over the Cap, they've got 5.2 million. That could be wrong though. Over the Cap and Spot Track have been known to be differing, so who knows? But let me cut over to Xavier Howard. No. Unless you deal. Well, no. At first, I was like, yeah, that could work if you can find a way to package Barnett, Ertz, a third or fourth, or maybe a second. Although I think that's stretching it. I think the second could be more useful. But now looking at it and looking over the situation, apparently he wants more money. And where is he in his contract? That I don't know. That's the one thing I don't know about the situation, of what year he's in on his contract. But this contract is up in 2024, but there's an out in 2022, and he's getting paid around $12 million for the next 4 years in base salary, and 1.4 in signing bonus from now till 2023, and he's getting paid $500K in roster bonus from 22 to 24. And he's getting a workout bonus, which it isn't nearly much. of under 100K after 2022 and 25K this year. But his cap hits from year to year go down. And the dead cap hit this year, if he were to walk, is way more than it would next year and the year after. Because right now it's at 16.275 million dead cap if he leaves. Because he has a cap hit of 13.5 million. The cap hit after 2022 or 23, that's why there's an out. Well, there's also an out in 2022, which also falls in with that year of if he were to be cut. $2.8 million in dead cap, and then 1.4 the year after in 23. And it doesn't show any dead cap in 24. So he could be someone that you get temporarily, and then if you don't need, you deal or cut. But I think Miami's got a little bit of leverage on that deal. And not only that, if he will be asking for more money in the future, I don't know if Philly's going to want to necessarily stick with that option for super long. Not only that, he is 28 this year, which, wow, if you're bringing in a 28-year-old, yes, he is doing good, but there's always the potential to regress. And he's going to be moved to CB2. Are we sure that if something were to happen and he falls to CB3 because let's say they want to put Zach McPherson at CB2 and he's excelled through the year and it's near the end, Philly is out of the playoffs, which I think they could be at that point, and they say, well, screw it, let's just put Zach in. What would Xavier say? Now, it's probably not going to happen, but it's always possible. I always say, there's always a possibility for anything. Especially something like this. But I don't know. It's a weird situation that a lot of variables could come into play and just mess some stuff up. But at the end of the day, I don't know if the deal's going to be worth it in the long term. Well, the deal could be worth it now, but there's some pros and cons with going with it and not going with it. But it is what it is. And now let's cut over to more topics. That was the real big news. Now we really don't have very much to talk about, but I can fish something up from somewhere. But hold on, let me go. What can I talk about? I'm thinking. I'm trying to think. What is there to talk about? Actually, I know what there is to talk about. Now, I've had not the greatest opinion on the running back spot, but I want to relook over it because since the last time I've had an opinion on it on the channel, it's changed a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. And that's because of two-back sets. Anyways, so with this lineup, and I Jeff, as if you're watching this, yes, I am going to bring up Holyfield. No, I'm not sorry for saying I think he's going to be on the team over Howard and carry on. But with this team, I think the running back formation is going to look like 5 backs. Sanders, Gainwell. Who's the third? Now I had this and I lost it. Adrian Killings. I almost said AK Eagles. Shout out to him. Accidental shout out to AK Eagles, aka Eagles Uncensored. Fourth, gotta be Holyfield, and then 5, I'm missing somebody. I have the feeling that I'm missing somebody. I shouldn't, but my 5th is honestly probably gonna be a toss-up. I think it's gonna be, hey, whoever wants it, you can battle for that 5 spot, and it's gonna be an all-out war. I really do think that's gonna be how it goes. Because looking at running back, the one huge reason that I really think Holyfield's going to be making this roster over guys like Kerryon and Howard is Howard still has to get himself back to where he was. I think we got to see that before we put him over Holyfield. Not only that, Holyfield's younger, hasn't gotten any touches on the ball in the NFL in a game and stuff, and he hasn't really gotten a chance like J-Jaw. What? I didn't say that. But now, and then you look at Kerryon Johnson. He's had a good amount of injuries, not in the NFL, but in college and the NFL combined. In the NFL, he's had one, but in college, he had a couple. I think it was college. I'm not 100% sure how many he had in college. I think 2 or 3, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. Don't. But Kerryon, I still think he needs to prove himself, and not only that, I think he's got to show he can be. He brings more to the table than a young power back that has been being developed, and I don't know if he'll be able to do that. I mean, there's a reason he's not in Detroit anymore, and Detroit's not that great in terms of team on paper. But I think that last spot's definitely going to be a battle between Scott, Huntley, Howard, and Kerryon, but I ultimately think it could come down to Scott and Huntley. Huntley is also a former Lion, by the way. There's also a connection there. Just had to point that out. But anyways, this has been a short podcast. There's really nothing to talk about, but glad to be back. And I will probably see you next week unless there's news within the week, and I don't think there will be. So I will see you next week on the podcast. Again, this has been the Common Flock, signing off.